The year I was diagnosed with mutism, I was 3 years old. That was when my dad, a medical examiner, asked for a divorce. His reasoning was simple. Being a medical examiner requires teamwork and collaboration. He didn't need a child who couldn't become one. Even though my mom clung to the judge's leg in court, sobbing that she didn't want the divorce, the final judgment was still delivered. My mom wiped her tears, left me on the side of a street, and disappeared with the huge settlement my dad gave her. I was taken to an orphanage by a volunteer. I was 5 by then. Even though I couldn't speak, I was old enough to understand that my parents had abandoned me. To be honest, the orphanage was more comfortable than home. At home, it was either my dad with his perpetually cold face, or my mom crying her eyes out every day. She would even secretly slap my face, hoping to shock me into saying a word. The more she did that, the more silent I became. When I was 8, I was adopted by a middle-aged woman. She had a weary look, and she forced a stiff smile at me. Being near her felt like a cold draft was blowing past. But her hands were big and warm, so I left the orphanage with her. My adoptive mom was always busy and would often lock me in my room. She would come home completely exhausted. But she always made me 3 meals a day and would hold me in her arms to read me stories. Still, there was a persistent coldness about her. Once I learned to read, I started to suspect my adoptive mom wasn't alive. I later found out that she worked at a crematorium. She was a professional corpse carrier. I couldn't speak, so I couldn't communicate like a normal person. Special school was too expensive, so my mom could only teach me a few words after she got off work. Slowly, I learned to recognize some characters, but I still couldn't interact with kids my own age. My mom was afraid I'd get depressed staying in my room all day, so she started bringing me with her when she was on duty. Her job was tedious and grueling. Not only did she have to transport all sorts of human fragments, whole and incomplete, fresh and not so fresh, she also often had to work the night shift, watching over the place. Because of my mutism, I had a natural lack of fear around dead bodies. It might have also had something to do with my mom's job. I just thought of them as my mom's clients, and I had to treat them with care. All the employees at the crematorium knew me. They would teach me little things while they worked. At first, I just stood by and watched. Later, I was the one taking the lead, stitching bodies back together. Maybe I was just born with a knack for it. Eventually, I could tell how the wounds were made with just a single glance. I was recommended to the police department to handle more of the strange and varied human fragments that came in. I still couldn't speak, but the autopsy reports I wrote brought peace to countless restless souls. Until the day before my permanent position was supposed to be finalized, my spot was given to someone else. A new medical examiner's assistant, Khloe Chun, suddenly showed up at the department. Khloe was a bubbly and outgoing girl. On her first day, she not only hit it off with all the colleagues but also dragged the team out for drinks. "Come on, guys. Stop being wimps. We're not leaving till we're wasted." The new captain was very pleased with this. Khloe worked on several major cases downtown. She's just here in the trenches to get some experience. From now on, Khloe will be our team's medical examiner. After the captain spoke, the expected cheers didn't come. One team member looked troubled. "Captain, we already have a medical examiner." The captain glanced at me, unconcerned. "She's just a temp. We can let her go." The old Emmy at our local precinct had retired, and I had been doing the job all along. I had my disability, but everyone had seen my capabilities, and my promotion to a permanent position had been unanimously approved. My official title was intern, and I was supposed to be promoted to Emmy's assistant. Now, Khloe had not only swooped in and taken my job but was also trying to get me kicked out. The team members who voted for my promotion spoke up. "Ava's been with our team for years and knows the Emmy procedures inside and out. Suddenly replacing her might not be a good idea." The captain was annoyed. "What's not a good idea about it? Khloe's father is a renowned medical examiner sought after by every major department. With her genetics and family background, how can you even compare her to Ava?" Seeing the looks on the team's faces, the captain relented slightly. "Ava can be Khloe's assistant and support her work." I rolled my eyes but said nothing. I usually just play deaf when I'm around people I don't like. After all, who can force a mute girl to kiss up to them. After the meeting, Khloe ran over to me. "You must be Ava. The captain assigned me to partner with the deputy chief. I honestly didn't know you were his partner before. We've known each other for years. If anything were going to happen, it would have happened by now, so you don't have to worry." It took me all of 0 seconds to figure Khloe out. I kept my head down, pretending I hadn't heard her. To my surprise, she threw an arm around my shoulders. "Ava, we're having a guys' night out, so no girls allowed. Hope you don't mind. I'm just a really straightforward person." I was speechless. This was such a low-level, obvious attempt to exclude me. I noticed the other team members' eyes darting between the two of us. I handed her a note. "Are you a man?" I heard a teammate next to me snort with laughter. Khloe's face turned beet red with anger. Then she grabbed my hand again. "Ava, it's all my fault. I came in and stole your position. I'll go tell the captain to give the Emmy job back to you right now." I yanked my hand away from hers and turned my back without a word. Khloe was confused. A teammate explained, "Ava has a bad reaction when she touches men. She must have mistaken you for one." Khloe's face went from red to green, from holding her breath. "Ava, I'm a girl. The guys here just don't treat me like one. And besides, I don't really like hanging out with girls." A light bulb went off in my head. I handed her another note. "Why don't you and the deputy have a pissing contest?" I could hear our teammates trying their best to stifle their laughter. Khloe's face turned from green to purple. The captain treated Khloe like a precious treasure. On her first assignment, the girl with the renowned Emmy father and deep family learning took one look at a bloated human fragment and started vomiting uncontrollably. The deputy chief ended up having to carry her away. The captain defended her. "Khloe's just new here. She's not used to it." He even comforted her. "If you're feeling really sick, you don't have to come to work for a while." Then he ordered me, "Finish the autopsy report and give it to Khloe. I'm sure her analysis will be more professional than yours." I pretended I didn't understand and went with the other team members to retrieve the rest of the human fragments. Ever since Khloe arrived, the captain had become a total Khloe apologist. Everything started and ended with Khloe. Even pouring a glass of water earned her a flowery compliment. I suspect if we weren't at a crime scene, he would have praised how beautifully pixelated her vomit was. Naturally, the main credit for this case report went to Khloe. The team members weren't children. Nobody was happy about having their hard-earned credit stolen so blatantly. But with the captain's authority, all they could do was gossip in private. I sat nearby, pretending to read a file, but my ears were pricked up. "He's acting like the great Emmy is going to get him a promotion tomorrow. I half expect him to make Khloe the captain." I saw the captain take Khloe to a hotel. He even gave her flowers. I heard Khloe blushing call the captain, "Dad." Clack. The pen fell from my hand. The captain was in his early 30s. There was no way he had a daughter in her 20s. This was some next-level drama. Khloe was shielded from everything by the captain. Since I wasn't a permanent employee, my signature on most reports just became another credit on Khloe's resume. The captain kept blocking my promotion, citing my mutism as the reason. A medical examiner needs to collaborate with the team. Khloe does that very well. In contrast, he lavishly praised Khloe's promotion to Emmy. Everyone was an adult, just trying to make a living under the captain. Khloe's promotion passed with just over half the votes, a meager 2-vote majority. Even though it passed, the captain was clearly unhappy with the result. He slammed the file in his hand onto the table. Some people just can't recognize talent. They can't stand to see others succeed, so they form their little cliques and push out the truly useful people. I knew he was talking about me, but I just looked innocent. What could I, a mute girl with no vote, possibly have done? Next, the captain called for a vote to dismiss me. I scoffed silently. The captain was really going to great lengths just to get rid of a temp like me. The deputy chief was the first to object. "Ava has been with the team for years. If not for her contributions, then for her hard work. She has extensive experience, and I don't think her inability to speak affects our communication." He had spoken what was on everyone's mind. Autopsies involve a lot of technical jargon, and the Emmy needs to translate it all into terms the team can understand. Not everyone on the team had a college degree. Khloe's reports were long-winded, academic, and convoluted. During the time she was partnered with the deputy, he had argued with her about it several times. Khloe always just laughed it off, mocking his low education level. It always ended with the deputy coming to me for a new, clearer report. My unconventional approach just happened to suit the team perfectly. In the end, the precinct wasn't the captain's dictatorship. Although the deputy wasn't the chief, he had a very powerful father. The motion to fire me ended with 0 votes. As I left the conference room, I saw Khloe's furious expression and had an idea. I passed her a note. My deputy and I just work well together because we've known each other for a long time. You shouldn't mind. Feeling like something was missing, I added, if anything were going to happen between us, it would have by now. Khloe's face went through a whole spectrum of colors, from green to a deep, blotchy purple. Despite the private grumbling, Khloe officially became the team's medical examiner. The first thing she did after taking the position was to target me. Ava, this family member has been consistently filing complaints about errors in your autopsy. Explain yourself. I passed her a note. My report is correct. Not correct. Khloe slammed her hand on the table. Are you saying you did nothing wrong, and the family member is just making baseless complaints? I was speechless. The complainant was the deceased son. The moment I examined the body, I knew the victim had been beaten to death and then thrown from a building to stage a suicide. The investigation strongly suggested the killer was the complainant's father. This kind of situation wasn't uncommon. The father killed the mother. But having a father in prison would be a lifelong stain on the son. So this 17-year-old boy was trying to prove the autopsy was wrong through repeated complaints. This became the perfect opportunity for Khloe to control me. Khloe put on a "this is for your own good" expression. Go and placate this complainant. Communication is a required course for a medical examiner. I pretended not to understand. After all, forcing someone with mutism to communicate is asking the impossible. Complaints at the department were usually handled by a dedicated team. It wasn't something for the operational units to deal with. The matter should have ended there. But Khloe, in her new position, was eager to make her mark and insisted I go and apologize to the complainant. I refused, but it was no use. Khloe slung her arm around me like we were best buddies. Ava, you're always cooped up in the office and don't understand how the world works. But when you're out here working, you have to be flexible, not so rigid. My hands flew in a blur as I vehemently protested her actions. A medical examiner's job is to speak for the dead. If even the ME falsifies reports, who will be left to convey the words of the deceased? His mother is already gone. We can't send his father to prison too. You have to think about the living. Khloe pushed me into the room. I stumbled a few steps, and when I looked up at the person in front of me, I froze. Despite the constant complaints, I had never met the complainant before. His face, his eyes, they matched a person from my memory. I checked the file. Throughout my career, the bodies had always been just a series of case numbers. Who they were, where they came from, I never paid attention. I found the deceased's information. Case 3251. Although she'd had plastic surgery, I recognized her from the contours of her brow bone. Once, she had held me gently and sung to me. Once, she had slapped my face over and over, cursing me for not being good enough. And once, after the divorce, she had abandoned her 3-year-old daughter on the street. To be honest, I don't remember the actual experience of dissecting my own mother. There was no psychic connection, no sudden premonition of dread. She was just like any other victim. A bloody, mangled face, her body covered in bruises under torn clothes. Over the years, I never blamed my father or my mother. Because of the defective genes I carried, I truly was a freak. The only thing that surprised me was that we would meet again in such a dishonorable way. My mother was like a fish stranded on the shore, desperately flopping into a bucket, thinking it was salvation, only to find it was another kind of hell. Khloe was explaining things to the boy while pinching me hard. I dodged her and answered, "The autopsy report is correct. You need to face the truth about your father instead of hoping to change the outcome. A rotten root can't be fixed." "Shut up," Khloe shrieked. She pulled the agitated boy aside to calm him down. My half-brother here must have had some real clout. Khloe was completely preoccupied, forgetting all about trying to mess with me. She was bowing and scraping before the boy, promising she would give him a satisfactory result. I watched coldly, determined not to compromise my professional integrity for anything. Let this be the one and only thing I could do for her. For the defective genes she gave me. Khloe saw the boy out and returned exhausted. Only then did it hit her. Did you just speak? I looked down, pretending to be busy. I never said that having mutism meant I couldn't speak at all. Khloe seemed to think she was hallucinating. She told everyone she saw that she'd dreamed I had spoken. Everyone gave her strange looks. Khloe didn't notice, lost in her own little world. Finally, the deputy chief couldn't take it anymore and told her the truth. Everyone on the team knew I could talk. I just rarely did, and they were used to it. Faced with Khloe's stunned expression, the deputy added, "The only time Ava speaks is when she's so emotional she can't control it anymore." Translation: if you push a quiet person too far, even a mute will be provoked into speaking. Khloe finally realized what a massive fool she had made of herself. She left with a dark look on her face, shooting me a glare as she went. At the next vote on my promotion, the captain was out of tricks and could only watch as my application passed unanimously. After the meeting, he called me into his office alone. His main points were, since I was newly promoted, I needed to watch my words and actions, remember my duties, and always prioritize Khloe's opinions. Khloe's father was coming to visit the department soon, so I had better keep my head down. Even if I could speak, my mutism made me unsuitable for the Emmy role, and he could arrange a more appropriate position for me. Having dealt with my mother's death, I considered myself a bit more mature and worldly. After listening to him, I handed him a note. Do I have to call you Dad too? Even though I had infuriated both Khloe and the captain, my mother's autopsy report was still officially concluded as a suicide. Today, Khloe's father, the renowned medical examiner the captain always bragged about, was visiting the department to inspect and guide our work. The great Emmy fit the stereotype perfectly, a serious, middle-aged man who rarely smiled. Though dressed plainly, his chin was slightly raised, as if years of success had given him a natural air of arrogance. Even the usually bold Khloe tiptoed around him, afraid of doing anything to displease him. The captain stood by, lavishing praise on Khloe, calling her a natural-born Emmy. We, the background extras, followed behind, listening to the deputy chief's running commentary. My dad told me this guy is a firm believer in innate talent. He loves geniuses and has been looking for that young genius Emmy who helped the higher-ups crack several major cases a few years ago. But they keep telling him the kid is still in school. I've heard of that genius Emmy too. A young officer next to me joined the gossip. They say his eyes are sharper than a hawk's, his nose is more sensitive than a dog's. Even if a body has turned to liquid, he can find the true cause of death. Everyone calls him the corpse whisperer. He was just a kid back then. I can't imagine how terrifyingly good he must be by now. He's probably protected, studying at some famous university. A person like that would have a sealed file for sure. Ava, your mother's here. She's waiting for you at the front desk. Hearing this, I looked up and quietly slipped out of the group, heading straight for the entrance. Mom, I called out to my adoptive mother. Ava. My mom's face was kind. I heard you got your promotion, so I made some dumplings to celebrate. I brought my mom into the reception area and opened the container. Her cooking skills were average, and a few of the dumplings had broken skins, but I ate them with relish. My mom said, I heard at the front desk just now that some great medical examiner is here looking for a genius Emmy. Ava, he's not looking for you, is he? I paused my chopsticks, puzzled, then shook my head. The great Emmy's daughter works here at the precinct. My mom sighed, I know you have a gift. It's all my fault for holding you back. If you had stayed at the state level back then. I shook my head. You're a great mom. I love you, Mom. I want to be your child forever. My mom's eyes reddened as she stroked my head. Good girl. Ava Yi. I looked up to see someone calling my name from the doorway. It was the great Emmy, Robertson. Seeing a visitor, my mom quickly packed up her things to leave, telling me to be on my best behavior. Your name is Ava Yi, correct? Robert sat down across from me. I didn't speak, wondering what he was up to. I'm Robert Chen. I want to take you on as my student. I fiddled with my fingers, staying silent. Anyone could see I had mutism. I couldn't be a medical examiner. Robert didn't seem surprised. He continued. Mutism. It's true that it's not suitable for an ME, but you are a natural-born talent for this work. I've seen the autopsy reports you've written. They are concise, direct, and get straight to the point. Compared to you, Khloe is still very green. His tone was gentle. Everyone thinks your mutism is why you haven't been made permanent all these years, but you can actually speak. So, the real reason a genius like you has been working as a temp for 5 years must be something else. I finally looked up and met his gaze. Robert looked out the window. You and your mother have a very good relationship. Outside, my adoptive mom, who I thought had already left, was standing at the department entrance, craning her neck to look in my direction, her face etched with worry. I looked away. The reason I hadn't been promoted was that I had killed someone. It was a very ordinary incident. My adoptive mother was a corpse carrier at the crematorium. Every day, she transported countless bodies. At that time, a wealthy man had died of illness, and his family brought him to be cremated as usual. The paperwork was in order, and the family was present. But shortly after the cremation, a woman appeared with 2 children, claiming they were the rich man's kids. The 3 of them were the mistress and illegitimate children he had kept on the side. Anyone familiar with such family dynamics knows the score. Once the body is reduced to ashes, DNA testing is impossible, and they couldn't inherit any of the tycoon's fortune. The rich man's ashes had already been taken by his family. The woman was helpless. She couldn't win against the legal wife. So she claimed that my mom hadn't waited for all family members to be present before starting the cremation, that the procedure was improper, and she threatened to complain to the management. The crematorium staff tried to calm the woman down while maintaining order, but they overlooked the 2 twin boys the woman had brought with her. These boys were clearly used to causing trouble together. They quietly slipped past the safety line. One of them rammed his head hard into my mom's stomach. As my mom staggered, the other one pushed her toward the active cremation furnace. The furnaces back then weren't the fully automated, enclosed systems of today. They had a small opening so the technician could occasionally turn the body. The temperature inside was over 200 degrees Celsius. If my mom had touched it, she would have been severely burned if not killed. I slammed into my mom from the side. The force of the impact not only knocked her out of the way, but also sent the little boy who pushed her careening into the long shovel the technician used to turn the bodies. The searing heat from the shovel made the boy jump back instantly. He reflexively stumbled backward, right toward the burning furnace. The opening was only large enough for an adult's arm, but the child fell in up to his waist. Although he was pulled out quickly, it was still a cremation furnace. After 10 days in the ICU, the little boy took his last breath. The woman, having lost both her meal ticket and her child, went insane. There was security footage and eyewitnesses. The boy's death was a tragic accident. But someone had died, and the family's emotions had to be managed. Around that time, I had discovered that the cause of death for a body sent from the state capital was suspicious. My superiors took me to the capital to present a report. During my time there, I stayed in the morgue, watching the medical examiner's work. The state officials had heard about the incident at the crematorium and minimized the fallout. Partly because I was a minor, and partly because it was ruled as excessive self-defense. Ultimately, I was sent to a juvenile detention center, and was only released shortly before I turned 18. Because of this incident, I was barred from any official position in law enforcement or the justice system. All these years, my adoptive mom felt that she had ruined my future. I never thought it was her fault. They were the ones bullying my mom. We were just defending ourselves. What did we do wrong? I thought for a moment, then finally passed him a note. Do you know who I am? Robert paused when he saw the note. I'm very sorry, he said. The moment I heard mutism, I immediately thought of you. It was just too much of a coincidence. I remember when you were just a toddler, you could already tell the difference between human and animal bones by instinct. I was so amazed back then. I, Robert Chun, had fathered a genius medical examiner. The rest didn't need to be said. But what a pity I was diagnosed with mutism. You really are my child. You carry my blood, the genius genes that can defy convention. Robert's tone was ecstatic. Child, come with me to the capital. You can have a better education, better guidance. I'm your father. I won't harm you. I will cultivate you with everything I have, and you will become an even greater medical examiner than I am. I believed his words, but I refused. How will you explain this to your current wife and child? Khloe was my age, which said everything about Robert's affair. I didn't ask if he knew what happened to my mother, because to him, a daughter really did seem to be just a tool for reproduction. Dad! Khloe's voice came from the doorway. I turned to see Khloe's eyes, filled with a mixture of terror and resentment. Khloe, the captain followed behind her. At the same time, I saw the astonishment in the captain's eyes. I glanced to the side and saw the reflection of Robert and me in the glass window. Our profiles were nearly identical. The captain's attitude toward me improved almost overnight. He never asked me to do Khloe's work again. He stopped making snide remarks about me forming cliques. In today's meeting, he even praised me for how quickly and efficiently I produced my reports. The deputy chief's jaw dropped. What kind of spell did you cast on the captain to make him bow down to you like that? He joked. I bet if you asked to be the lead Emmy today, he'd kick the great Dr. Chin to the curb without a second thought. The term medical examiner must have triggered Khloe. She slammed the file in her hands onto the table. I was standing right between her and the table. The sharp corner of the file grazed my cheek as it flew past, only to be knocked down by the deputy. Khloe, are you crazy? You take it out on people just because you can't write a report? Khloe's eyes were bloodshot. She stared daggers at me, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Well, I'm not like some people who have a good mom, who's so good at seducing other people's fathers. So shameless. So she thought my mom and I were the mistress and the illegitimate child. The deputy looked completely baffled. What is wrong with you? You're acting crazy all the time. What are you all talking about? A few people were standing at the door, including the captain and Robert Chin. Among them, I also saw my half-brother. He stood behind a man in a well-tailored suit, his expression grim. Ava, I'd like you to meet someone. This is the chairman of the Wani Corporation. He's provided a lot of funding for our justice programs. Before I could say anything, the boy behind the man spoke up. Mr. Chun, I don't think my father needs to meet an incompetent temp like her. Jason, what's going on? The chairman asked. My half-brother, Jason, pointed at me. It was this temp. When she did the autopsy on my mom, she insisted that my dad killed her. Everyone knows my dad loved my mom more than life itself. How could he possibly kill his own wife? The boy was full of righteous indignation, as if he were speaking the absolute truth. Thankfully, Ms. Khloe Chin had a sharp eye and corrected this mistake in time. Otherwise, my father would have suffered a greater injustice than any in history. The Wani Corporation chairman's face clouded over. His sharp, hawk-like eyes stared at me menacingly. Since it was a misunderstanding that's been resolved, that's good. I trust the law will grant me justice. Ah, yes, the captain chimed in hastily. That's right. Ava is still young. It's understandable she'd make mistakes on something as complex as an autopsy. Luckily, we had Khloe, Mr. Chen's own daughter, to personally handle the case and clarify the facts for Chairman Lee. It truly is a case of family genius, passed down through the generations. Indeed. I imagine the corpse whisperer, who was all the rage a couple of years ago, must be another name for your talented daughter. The chairman said, smiling at Robert. Robert was an old fox. He understood the situation immediately from Jason's few sentences. I stared at Robert, trying to read his expression. I wanted to know if the genius he so desperately craved could hold her own against the power of capital. Robert hesitated for only a moment before speaking. Khloe is still just a child. She can't bear such a prestigious title. This was as good as confirming that Khloe's report was correct. A weight lifted from my chest. I hadn't misjudged him. Robert Chin was indeed a hypocrite. The Wani chairman's smile relaxed, seeming more genuine. Mr. Chun, you're too modest. With a talent like your daughter, how could you ever worry about a successor? Khloe walked out of the precinct with the group, laughing and smiling. I stood where I was and started packing my things. The deputy was surprised. What are you doing? It's only Tuesday. Are you going home? I sighed. A nearby officer sighed too. You saw how arrogant that young master of the Chun family was. He's clearly targeting Ava, and Mr. Chun is siding with him. I'm afraid Ava's in for a tough time. The deputy's eyes widened. Bullying Ava? Not on my watch. I'm going to call someone. I grabbed the deputy's arm and shook my head vigorously. This time, Robert himself was probably behind it. Even if the deputy had connections, he wouldn't easily offend Robert for a minor employee like me. I pointed to myself and made an okay sign. I have a plan. The deputy calmed down and started helping me pack, muttering insults about everyone who had just left. Just as I was about done, Robert and his group returned. Robert personally delivered the notice to me. Your work has shown a major lapse in judgment. Fortunately, it was rectified in time. You are hereby dismissed and are barred from ever working in the forensic field again. I knew it was a threat from Robert, but I wasn't buying it. I took the termination letter, grabbed my box of belongings, and walked out. Khloe, beaming with smug satisfaction, walked up to me. Ava, I've always told you, you can't always be on top. Life has its ups and downs, and you never know when your family might get dragged into it. A jolt of fear went through me. What did you do to my mom? I lunged forward and grabbed her by the collar. Khloe's physical fitness was no match for someone like me, who'd grown up hauling bodies at a crematorium. She stumbled back, nearly falling, and coughed for a good while. So you finally speak. I was starting to think, cough cough, you'd be calm and detached forever. A few officers quickly pulled us apart. Ava, Khloe's probably just trying to scare you. You should go home and check first. I gave Khloe one last cold look, then turned and left without a word. If anything had happened to my mom, I would make Khloe pay. When I rushed home, my mom was surrounded by several burly men. The furniture was in disarray clearly. There had been a struggle. I stepped in front of her. Tell Khloe that if she has a problem, she can come to me. I reached into my pocket and came out with 3 sharp surgical scalpels in my hand. I usually cut up corpses on a dissection table, but I don't mind doing it at home. The large men were expressionless. Our madam would like to invite your mother for a visit. The rich man's mistress? No. Isudanli Ramambarat. It had to be Robert's wife. Years ago, at the state capitol, the medical examiner I worked with was Robert's junior from school. The two had never gotten along. Later, Robert married his mentor's twice-divorced daughter, and his career took off. His junior had backed the wrong horse and ended up as a professor at his old university, slowly climbing the ladder over the years. From what I remembered, Robert's second wife, Khloe's mother, was a formidable woman. It was because of her that Robert, a student from a humble background, had achieved his current status, becoming an idol for many aspiring medical examiners. Khloe had mistaken me and my mom for Robert's mistress and illegitimate child. So Robert's wife sent people to teach us a lesson? But Robert's wife wasn't a simple-minded person. Would she really act so rashly based on a few words from Khloe? Police! Hands up, all of you! A sharp command broke the standoff. Seeing the deputy and his team, the bodyguards all put their hands on their heads and squatted down. Ava, are you okay? The deputy strode forward. You ran off so fast. If it weren't for me, you would have been too late. I shook my head, indicating I was fine. I have a letter. I need you to take it to the state capitol. Daughter of renowned Emmy Robert Chin, Khloe Chin, falsifies evidence to acquit Wani Corp. Chairman. The media was the first to react. It started when someone posted photos from the day of the Wani Corp. Chairman's wife's death. The post pointed out numerous injuries on her body that were inconsistent with suicide and looked more like the result of domestic abuse. Then, someone consulted forensic science students, who provided a pathological analysis from various angles. Just a day before, Wani Corp. had released an official obituary for the chairman's wife on their website, which included the official MES report and case closed certificate. The signature on the autopsy report was clearly Khloe Chen's. The stark contradiction sparked a heated debate. People compared Khloe's report with the analysis from the professionals. Some forensic students even put the photos and the report side by side for a detailed breakdown. The conclusion was damning. Although Khloe's report was filled with professional jargon, it was completely at odds with the evidence in the photos. The news caused an instant uproar. The public's attention turned to Robert Chun, Khloe's father. The reasoning was that Khloe was too inexperienced to have the nerve to falsify a report on her own, nor would she have the connections to a corporate giant like Wani Corp. That left only one possibility: Robert had ordered it. For years, Robert had cultivated the image of a great scholar, hungry for talent. Students from all over the country dreamed of studying under him. But who says scholars don't love money? I can't believe a scandal like this has hit the great Dr. Chun. He'd better clear this up fast. This means one of two things. Either Khloe is completely incompetent, or Robert Chun is in deep SHD. Get this trash out of academia. I watched the flood of comments on the screen and smirked. Robert, are you going to save your daughter, or are you going to save yourself? Robert, true to form, was an old fox. Even caught in such a major scandal, he was the first to issue a clarification. First, the viral photos of the Wani Corp. Chairman's wife were AI-generated fakes. Second, the autopsy report was prepared by an intern, and the signature was forged. Third, everyone should have faith in justice. But then, Khloe's old-school transcripts suddenly appeared online, and the grades were atrocious. You could even see Khloe's handwriting on some of the exam papers, and it was a perfect match for the handwriting on the autopsy report. The internet exploded again. Don't even need to compare. It's identical. Robert Chun spoke up for his daughter too soon. I remember Robert Chun and his wife were both top students. I guess the apple fell far from the tree and rolled into a ditch. I don't know about ditches, but you're a real savage for that comment, lol. My 0-second calculation predicts Drive Chen's next statement will be about how Khloe has a long-term intern who follows her everywhere. Khloe became public enemy number one, with the entire internet demanding an official response. Either Robert had ordered Khloe to do it, or Khloe had done it herself. Robert's choice was swift and decisive. He abandoned Khloe. The captain quickly suspended her, stating that a new team would be assigned to re-examine the body of the Wani Corp. Chairman's wife. Wani Corp, however, was getting antsy. A video surfaced of the chairman's young son causing a scene at the precinct. Because it contained sensitive information, it was quickly deleted, but not before many people saw it and started discussing it. As a mother, this is heartbreaking. The son only cares about his rich dad, not his suffering mom. I could never tolerate a child I gave birth to looking down on me. I remember Wani Corp. donated a lot of medical equipment to Robert Chen's lab. Just think, if this is all true, it's terrifying. A human life can actually be bought and sold. Before the precinct could even figure out a plan, an order came down from above. A special investigator would be sent to conduct a new autopsy on the Wani Corp. Chairman's wife. If you want to hit your opponent where it hurts, you hand the weapon to their mortal enemy. Robert Chen's old-school rival was the perfect choice. I had the deputy deliver the evidence of Khloe's and Robert's falsified reports to this rival, sending it under the name the Corpse Whisperer. With proper handling and the weight of that name, the case was bound to be reopened. Robert pinned all the blame on Khloe, claiming he knew nothing about it. He said Khloe had privately accepted a bribe from the Wani Corp. chairman and falsified the report. If Khloe were to plead guilty, she would be facing prison time. The next afternoon, I saw a sharp, professionally dressed woman arrive in a hurry. She was extremely alert. Sensing my gaze, she immediately turned to look at me. That one look sent me back to a childhood memory. It was a dark, gloomy day. My mother was holding me, hiding in a closet. Outside the closet, my father, who was always so prim and proper, was naked and writhing beneath a woman. Strange sounds came from their bodies. When they were finished, the woman turned her head and, through the slats of the closet door, looked directly at me. "Don't speak," my mother whispered from behind. Her hand clamped tightly over my mouth, stopping me from making a sound. "Sure you can't speak? What's this about not speaking?" The deputy was standing behind me. "That's Dr. Chen's wife. She actually came in person. Khloe was a difficult birth for her at an older age. There's no way she's going to let her go to prison. They'll probably find a scapegoat for this, send Khloe away for a few years, and then bring her back." "What about Wani?" I asked. Wani? The Wani chairman was arrested on his way to the airport. Probably out of pure rage, he spilled a lot of details about his private dealings with Robert. It opened a can of worms. Even my half-brother was brought in for round after round of questioning. The truth about my mother's death came out, and the internet celebrated. I held my mother's urn and handed it to Jason. He suddenly asked, "Did you know my mom?" I froze, then shook my head. I only met her a few times. But that stubborn streak you have, that refusal to give up, it's just like my mom. He murmured, "Dad beat her so many times, but she still refused to leave." I laughed. Isn't that just defective genes? After multiple investigations, Robert Chen was ultimately arrested and imprisoned on several charges, including dereliction of duty and abuse of power for personal gain. The Wani chairman was arrested and imprisoned for charges including intentional homicide and bribery. Everyone involved, including the captain, was brought down. Because Khloe was not the mastermind, and with her mother pulling strings, she only received a suspended sentence. By the time I heard this news, I had already moved with my adoptive mother to the state capital. Robert's old rival had been promoted again because of this case, and was now the head of the department. He had a permanent position waiting for me, effective immediately. Ava. Wait. I turned to see the deputy. "You're the captain now. Where are you going?" He was carrying a bunch of bags. "We're the most perfectly matched partners. How could you go somewhere without me? I haven't seen you write anything lately. Is your mutism cured?" "Yes." The end.